Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Sonia, and I'm thrilled to be your host for this Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants aims to inspire the next generation by bringing science, exploration, adventure, and conservation into classrooms all over the world through virtual live events just like this one. Today, we are so excited to be joined by primatologist Liselot Lange, who has focused her studies on spider monkeys. She'll talk to us today about her adventures, research, and the conservation of primates. So without further ado, I am going to pull Liselot up. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be presenting today. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to share a little bit of my story with you guys. I'm just going to open my presentation so you guys can see my presentation. So here we go. Okay. So
I'm going to add disappear.
Sorry?
I'm going to add your slides to the stream. Ooh. I can see that you shared your screen, but it doesn't seem to be loading the slides quite yet, but that's okay.
Okay, so wait a little bit. Let me know when you see them.
All right. Oh, there we go.
Yeah?
Perfect. All right, you're good to go. I will remove myself and you can take it away. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. I'm at the very end slide. I'm like, why is this not going? Okay, there we go. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about primatology, which is basically the study of monkeys. So I hope you enjoy my talk. And yeah, as this is like a very interactive session, I guess you guys can ask me any questions you want afterwards. So yeah, first I want to just let you guys know what is primatology exactly, who am I? Then I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I've been doing for the last 5 years and what my future plans are. So primatology is the study of primates, and primates we all know, like monkeys, maybe the great apes, but even humans, like we all fall underneath the family of primates. And when we say study of primates, we can think of various aspects. So we can study maybe behavior or diet or evolution, taxonomy, biology. There's a lot of different things that we can study. And I chose to study like a very specific family, which is the South American primate family. And I'm actually currently in Peru talking with you guys. So who am I? My name is Liselot. I'm 27 years old. I'm from the Netherlands, but I've been living in Peru since 2014, roughly. So I've been living in a different country for most of the last few years. When I was younger, I always knew I wanted to do something with animals when I grew up. And I decided to study a bachelor in animal management. And whilst I was doing that, I started a dog. You can see those like boxes, but then I actually changed to South America wildlife, and that's where you see the snake come in. In the north of South America, just above Brazil, and it's part of the Amazon rainforest basin. So I got to get in contact with like a lot of rainforest animals. And this is where actually my passion for monkeys came from, because I saw a lot of monkeys. I worked with the monkeys a lot, and I kind of fell in love with the spider monkey specifically. But whilst I was working in Suriname, I saw like the very rough life most monkeys there are living. The enclosures weren't really large, not even in the zoo, but especially when people have monkeys as pets at their home. So the picture on the left here, it's a tiny little small cage where they had a saki monkey, a bearded saki monkey in this case. And you can see that, sorry, I have a dog. It's just starting to bark. So you can see that it's in a tiny cage. And Lucy. Really sorry about that. So the monkey is in a tiny little cage, and I felt really bad. And actually, I just felt as if the monkeys were crying for help a little bit. So like, this monkey, also a very sad look in his eyes, right? So I wanted to do something for monkeys. And when I finished my bachelor, I started to study a master in science in primate conservation. So actually like the protection and conservation of monkeys. I'm really sorry about the dog. I hope she's gonna shut up in a second. For my master's dissertation, I traveled back to South America, but this time I went to Peru. So I traveled down to southern Peru. Oh my God. I might let her outside. Just give me 1 sec. Bear with me, okay?
No problem. I don't know about any of you guys, but I live with a dog, and he always wants to join in the conversation at the most inconvenient time. So I'm sure many of us can relate to this.
Okay, well, she's outside now. So it's good.
No problem at all.
Okay. So I traveled down to southeastern Peru, again, part of the Amazon rainforest, and I started working on studying spider monkeys. Well, I don't know if any one of you guys have ever maybe seen a spider monkey in a zoo, but they're very long-limbed monkeys. Here they're known as maquisapas. And this specific species is called Ateles chamek. It's actually an endangered species on the international red list for endangered animals. So they need protection and they need to be conserved, right? So I studied a group of like 6 till 10 individuals. I want to introduce a couple of them to you. I followed this specific family for like 3 years. So these are the 3 males that were part of my group. We have Ezra, Luca, and Scar. And if you're wondering, like, how could I tell them apart? Actually, all of them have a different face, and you can actually tell differences between them. So, for instance, here the easiest to see maybe is Luca, who has a really clear black dot on his nose, and then Scar, who actually has like a white scar on his eyebrow, and Ezra has like a horizontal line on his nose. So all of them have like their own features that help me like identify them, and also keeping track of their lives. I do need like a large camera or binoculars to be able to tell the differences. Then these are some of the females, a little bit less clear photos maybe, but also they have various distinct features. And again, I could tell them apart. So these are Coco, Fleur, and Rose. And actually both Fleur and Rose right now have a baby. So I've seen them recently and they both carry a baby right now, which is very exciting and good news for their population. I don't have a photo of that, unfortunately. So my study, it focused on the activity budget, on habitat use, demography, and more. And just to explain to you a little bit, activity budget, for instance, is what do they do all day? Like, what are they doing, literally? So you just take the percentages of time that they spend on each activity. And in this case, that would be resting, foraging, which means eating or handling food, traveling, so just like literally walking through the trees or swinging through the trees, and socializing, so whenever they display social behavior towards each other or amongst other animals maybe. So for spider monkeys, they like to rest a lot. They actually rest like more than 40% of the day. They forage 30% of the day, roughly, travel 30% of the day. They're not animals, and I think personally, because spider monkeys are one of the very few primates we have in the world that actually don't have a thumb. And I don't know if you guys can imagine picking up like each other's fur. Spider monkeys can't really each other's fur. So they don't really socialize that much, but they do every once in a while. They play or maybe they fight, but that's like most of the social behavior we see. No, I also studied like their demography, which means like social changes within the group. So maybe one passed away or another one was born, or maybe a new member joined the group. All of that I studied as well. And also what part of the forest do they use? Where do they travel? So we kind of mapped out their whole habitat. So where do they live? So why is it important to protect spider monkeys and their habitat? Like I just mentioned that they're endangered. There's a couple of threats to monkeys, but they're very important members of the ecosystem. Because spider monkeys eat mostly fruits, and they actually eat like a very large they eat very large fruits with very large seeds, and they swallow the seeds whole. So the seeds, like in this picture, you can see a seed, it's almost 4 centimeters long. And spider monkeys are actually able to just swallow that as a whole, versus other monkeys and other mammals usually chew the seeds and they break them apart. But when a spider monkey eats it, it like swallows the seed, travels with that seed in its belly to like maybe 2 kilometers further, and then maybe poops it out, where that seed has actually a really good chance of germinating because it's already with natural fertilizer of the monkey's dung, no, the monkey's feces, and it helps the seed actually to grow into a tree. Because the spider monkey is really one of the few species that is able to swallow these whole seeds, they're very important seed dispersal agents, we call that. So they're very important to the regeneration of the forest, we call this. So keeping the forest healthy and having large seeded fruits around that other animals do eat, but are not able to disperse. So the Amazon rainforest without spider monkeys would look very different, and we wouldn't have these big fruits around that many, many animals depend on. So that's one thing. So they're very important animals. Then also their reproductive system is very slow. So I'm gonna try and explain this a little bit clearer to you. The age when a monkey can reproduce and have another baby, for a smaller monkey might be at like a year old of age or maybe 2 years of age, but for spider monkeys it's actually only when they get like 5 years of age when they can start reproducing, start having babies. And they actually carry a baby in their belly as well for 8 months. So very similar to humans, because humans of course have 9 months of just gestation period, but spider monkeys have 8 months. So you can imagine it's a very slow process for them to reproduce and have babies. They only have 1 young at a time, and the young stays like with the mom for like 2 to 3 years as well. With the first 1.5 year, the baby monkey will be on the back of its mom. After 1.5 year, it will slowly like start separating, but still be with the mom very, very often. I don't know if anyone of you has the slightest idea of how old a spider monkey can become, but I think I will surprise you all. We have recorded the maximum age for now is 50 years, but this is in captivity. So this is a photo actually from the Netherlands, from a monkey park we have in the Netherlands. But this monkey turned 50 years. Of course, in captivity, like circumstances are usually quite well, because the monkey gets food all the time, doesn't need to look for food, doesn't need to worry for food, he doesn't need to fight for territory. So the circumstances are usually quite ideal, even that we sometimes regularize like temperature. So for a monkey, it might be easier to live in captivity. But even so, I think, and this is my personal opinion, that in the wild, monkeys are probably able to, like the spider monkeys at least, to reach like ages of like 35 or 40 years, which is very impressive for any mammal to live in the wild. So all of that means that they're very sensitive to human threats, and one of those threats is deforestation. I think this is a little video just. So deforestation in the rainforest is currently a race that we've never seen before. And one of the primary reasons for deforestation is cattle ranching. As you can see in this video, like you just saw some cows at the beginning. The beef industry for in South America has been the greatest cause of deforestation, but there's a couple of other things that are also threatening spider monkeys, because spider monkeys are really depending on a healthy forest to survive. They need the high trees. They usually go up in the canopy and spend their time there. Other threats are the bushmeat trade, and I don't know if all of you guys know what this is, but people like usually in rural places like South America still hunt wild animals for eating. And here in South America, they also eat monkeys, and spider monkey is actually one of their favorites. So I didn't include a picture because it's quite graphic. I didn't want to, I know it's early morning, like I didn't want to mess up here. I included a picture that's quite graphic, like see monkeys, you know, their fur gets burned up, or they make soups out of them. It's almost as if they're eating a human, especially spider monkeys, because they have like very similar long limbs as us, and it's not great to see. But it's something we need to understand, is that here in these communities, they still eat monkeys, and something that we need to work with and try maybe to like have them hunt only sustainably, or not hunt at all would, in my opinion, be maybe ideal, but then we need to find solutions for them and replacements for what their diet requires. And then the third biggest threat is pet trade. So what happens is people here hunt monkeys, as I said, to eat. But if a hunter has an option, like he sees maybe a spider monkey, but on the other hand, he sees a spider monkey with a baby, he will always go for the spider monkey with the baby because he can sell the baby in the pet trade, which is illegal. But he can sell that baby in the pet trade and he can eat the adult monkey in that case. So unfortunately, a lot of people have monkeys here as pets as well. And even that still happens in the States and in Europe as well. People always want monkeys, but it's not necessarily good because monkeys are usually wild and they, at like the age of 2 or 3, turn aggressive, start biting, and people really get like tired of them and dump them usually at rescue centers or dump them back into the wild without any kind of rehabilitation. So it basically just means that that monkey is doomed. So this is a really sad story, but there's luckily also opportunities for us to work. So some of the solutions that we can work on is one, law enforcement. As I said, like the trade of like pet monkeys is actually illegal, but we don't see much law enforcement, especially here down in Peru, where there's a lot of corruption. People that might have a monkey, they can just say, oh, you know, here's 50 soles, and the police will just look the other way. Like it's very easy here to get away with some illegal activities, which is a shame, but it's also difficult to change that. But something that we can change is educate people and start young. So we need to educate young people and go by schools and explain to them why it might be harmful for the environment to, you know, have a monkey. Where did that monkey come from? What did it go through? And why is it not suitable as a pet? And then in the cases where people already do have a monkey, you can see here in the picture, there exists forms of rehabilitation. So when there's rescue centers, they receive a baby monkey and they will rehabilitate it and like teach it how to live again in the wild. And then sometimes they have success stories where they are released, like these monkeys in the picture. So it's a young female actually that with her youngster that we reintroduced into the wild. And this helps us with like recuperating maybe populations of spider monkeys in places where they've also already gone extinct. And you know, not everything is bad. There is solutions, we just need to work on them. So, and for environmental education, I worked together with some local NGOs and we created a storybook, actually, a coloring book that talks about spider monkeys and their importance. And this book, I'm really excited about it. Like I wrote the story and then my friend actually drew the whole book, but it's now being presented and distributed throughout schools in the region where I work in, which is Puerto Maldonado in the Madre de Dios department of Peru. So it's really exciting for me to see that I'm actually actively helping with the conservation of this species. And then finally, future plans. For me, it's really important that I can protect as much habitat where the monkeys live as possible. So I'm currently working for an NGO, which is called Jungle Keepers. We are trying to create a corridor of protected area in the Las Piedras region. And I'm very glad I'm part of that team because we're growing fast. We have a lot of land and we're actually building associations with other organizations, but also with the local communities on the river. So we're trying to really protect a large region that's not really protected by the government. So it's like where we stepped in. I also really want to continue doing scientific research. So I included these photos because this is actually a project that's quite new for me that I want to focus and maybe even do a PhD on about. But it's an albino spider monkey. And it's actually the only albino spider monkey that we could study in the wild. There's been an albino monkey before in Honduras, which is a different country, but it was caught by hunters. So it's actually in captivity now. And then there's 2 leucistic monkeys in Colombia, but those are not full albino. They're not as white as this one. So for me, it would be really interesting to see like how do the monkeys like treat this monkey? Do they accept her? Does she have any physical impairments? Because we know with human albinism, sometimes the albino people go like blind. They sometimes get skin cancer. So it's really interesting to see if we have how do you say it? The same things happening with spider monkeys, right? If an albino spider monkey faces those same threats as a human albino would. And then again, I also want to continue my education plans here locally and internationally. So I'm really excited that you guys let me talk to you today, and I hope the talk has been a little bit interesting for you guys. And I think that was my part of the talk. So I'm welcoming any questions you guys might have.
Liselot, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was so interesting. All right, we have a bunch of classes joining us live, and then classes also joining us from YouTube. So I'm going to start checking in with them so they can ask questions, and I'll post some questions from our YouTube audience as well. All right, let's check in with Mr. Atkinson's grade 7 class that's joining us virtually.
Good morning. Thank you for that talk. I've luckily been down to Costa Rica and seen a few spider monkeys, and they're wonderful. My class is actually preparing some questions, but I think one thing I caught was their ecosystems being threatened. But what is is there a natural predator of the spider monkeys too that is involved?
Yeah, there is. There's few. Of course, the human is the biggest one, also natural threat. But the jaguar, sometimes spider monkeys usually don't go to the ground, but sometimes they go to the ground to clay licks, which is like a mineral lick where they get minerals and salts. And if they go down to the ground to go to such a lick, sometimes the jaguars are there like hunting mammals, and that's when sometimes a jaguar can get away with catching a spider monkey. And then the other natural enemies are harpy eagles, which is the biggest eagle in the world actually, and has the strongest claws of any bird of prey in the world as well. They can't get away with catching an adult monkey, but they usually go for like juveniles, like younger monkeys. And then the last one, the third one is, snakes. I don't think it occurs very often, but a snake could catch a monkey, especially like big boas. So we have the red-tailed boa or the rainbow boa, but I think an adult monkey would be difficult as well for a snake to eat. So maybe a smaller individual, like a baby or a young one, would be caught by a snake. Yeah.
Amazing. We will check back in for more questions from our grade 7 class. Right now we have a question from YouTube. This person is asking, we were wondering if there's anything that we could do ourselves in Canada, they're joining from Canada, to support the conservation of spider monkeys. How can they help?
There you are.
Oh, did I cut out for a second?
Yeah, you're spinning.
Oh no. Okay. Well, this person is asking from our YouTube audience. They're joining from Canada, and they're wondering what they can do to support the conservation of spider monkeys. How can they help?
Well, that's a really interesting and good question. I think to help spider monkeys, first of all, like I always recommend people to eat locally. Like even though you might think that doesn't have an impact, it does. So if you I'm myself vegetarian, but I know a lot of people aren't, and I'm also not trying to advocate for everyone to turn vegetarian. But if you do eat meat, I would really recommend you to buy local sourced meat, because as I said, like the cattle ranching is the biggest threat actually for deforestation, or the biggest cause of deforestation. And if people from the States, Canada, Europe wouldn't be asking for beef from South America, we have a bigger chance of protecting the rainforest. Of course, another thing would be to donate to in situ projects, like, for instance, Jungle Keepers, where I work for. We're an NGO and actively protecting the habitat. And as Jungle Keepers, of course, there's many more NGOs that are focused on the nature conservation, like WWF or whatever. But there are smaller, very specific projects that one can donate to. I guess that just requires a little bit of research to what draws most of your attention. I want to start an NGO, but I don't actually have my own NGO yet. I do have a small business set up, but I'm starting my business to also try and create some sort of income to put back towards conservation, even though it's not as much as an NGO. It's still I'm gonna use the profits for a good purpose. My business is called Makisapa, but it's very, very small, so I haven't really started that. So I would recommend you to, well, first, like very local, and that way contribute to like the question in South America as one, or just educate your neighbors, your family, these types of topics. There's all steps that every benefit for spending plastic or buying used clothes, like all of these things in the long run help conservation as a whole. And for spider monkeys, I would recommend you trying to find like a very specific organization that maybe works with them in protecting them. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we are going to tune in with a grade 2 class that's joining us from Ontario today. We can see you guys, but we can't hear you. Do we have your mic on? Can't hear you. We can see you.
There we go. Yeah.
These are the joys of doing things with technology. When it works, it's great. And then other times, do you want, oh, okay, I think they typed their question in for us. So this class is asking, why do spider monkeys get sold for money? Thank you, grade 2s.
So yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess it's a profit for people here are quite poor, so they're not like maybe us where we have a nice home and where we can go to school. Here for some families it's quite hard to send their kids to school or to buy even clothing or food. So anything that people can make money with, they will. And because there's a trade in baby monkeys, it means that people are willing to pay for a baby monkey to have it as a pet. And this is why, like, we have these hunters go into the forest and actually hunt baby like monkeys and take their baby spider monkeys for the pet trade. I know it's really sad and it's really, you know, it's not the way we would like things to see, but this is just a way where people make money, and with that money they can feed their children. Unfortunately, the economy in South America is not as stable as it is in most of the countries where we might be from. Yeah.
Thank you. We're going to check in with our grade 5 class joining us from Thunder Bay, Canada today. Hi, guys. Do you have a question? We can't seem to hear you guys. Oh, okay.
How fast can they run? Very fast, very fast. They, you have to imagine these monkeys, like they swing through the trees. And I, as a researcher, am like on the forest floor where I don't only, like I'm trying to watch the spider monkeys and where they're going, but I have to watch out that there's no venomous snakes like on my route, and there sometimes are wasp nests. And I'm not like walking on a path. I'm literally walking through the Amazon rainforest with my machete. Sometimes really hard to keep up with them because they go really fast. I don't know in like how many kilometers an hour they can go, but I can tell you that I usually lose them if they decide to run away from us because they just go too fast. They look very magnificent as well. They're really beautiful when they travel through the treetops. I would look like maybe you guys can look up a little video of spider monkeys going through trees because it's really nice to see.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to continue checking in with our live classes, but I'm going to mix in a few of our YouTube viewer questions. And we have a few different classes asking how the monkeys that you showed us that you were following, how did they get their names?
Oh, that's just random picks between me and my volunteers. So I was leading a volunteer group over the years. Like people were able to join my research and like learn about spider monkey research and conservation. So whenever we would find a new monkey, we would like just come up with a name together. but I always try to do 4-letter names because it's just easier in like coding and keeping them apart. So yeah, just random really, but we called Scar because he had like a little, you know, white mark there, and then the others were more random, I guess. Yeah, the names we liked.
All right. I'm going to check in with another one of our live classes. Hello.
Mais les excursions là-bas, yeah, ils sont plus faits.
I don't know. All right, we're going to recheck in with Mr. Atkinson's grade 7 class.
All right. I'm looking, they're kind of chatting back and forth here. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, there we go. One question was, do you have any idea what the population of the spider monkeys is? Any idea generally? I guess you might know more around your own area.
Yeah, exactly. I know more in this specific region because we have this species of spider monkeys lives in Bolivia, Brazil, and Peru. Of course, I only live in Peru, and I've only been working in Peru as well. So I know here we have a couple of national parks, and like in one of those national parks, they're actually extinct, and that's where they're trying to reintroduce them now through the rescue center. And then in other parts, there are very few spider monkeys left. In the region where I work, there is still a lot of spider monkeys and there's healthy populations. But if we don't protect them, that's gonna like leave a gap between all the other national parks, and they won't be able to cross from one area to the other one, which is gonna be detrimental in the future for those populations. Internationally, I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly how many monkeys there are. No, I think that there's no such number that's existing. Usually you look at like per region, if there are, if there aren't, and if those populations are healthy. So a healthy spider monkey group, like a family, usually exists of like 15 till 50 individual monkeys. And as I mentioned to you guys earlier, the group that I was following was like between 6 and 10. It was a really small group actually. But now that there's 2 new babies in the group and actually also 2 new members in the group, like the numbers are looking more positive again. Internationally, no, I can't tell you a number of how many spider monkeys there's left in the wild.
All right, thank you, Liselot. We have, we're going to check back in with the grade 2 class. I think they fixed their mic and they have another question for you.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. It says that you're muted right now. We still can't hear you guys. That's okay. Did you type your question in the chat? Okay, perfect. Okay, so they are asking, Paige is asking, she would like to know what kind of bond you have developed with the family of spider monkeys that you were following when you were researching them.
Yeah, so I feel like I have a really deep connection with them. I'm sure they don't agree with that, but for me it feels like they're actually somehow my own family. And when I saw them the last time, well, I studied them for 3 years and then I left that organization, and now I've been working with the other organization, Jungle Keeper, since. But when I left, I haven't seen them for like a year, and then like 2 weeks ago I went to the forest back and I saw them. And for me, that was very emotional because I saw that they had 2 babies. So like I started a little bit weeping a little bit because it was really nice to see that they're doing very well. And actually in that moment, they stayed for a good while. They were like looking at us. They weren't scared, because sometimes when you come across spider monkeys or maybe a group that you don't know, they usually tend to flee because they are hunted. So they know to flee when they see humans. This specific group, I made them get used to me because I wouldn't give up following them, right? They were probably like, who's that annoying little blonde girl down there? So they probably, maybe, I can't tell you that they like me or they don't like me, but they accept my presence. And I think that's already all that I can ask for. And it's just beautiful to see that they are not scared of us. So they don't run away anymore from us. And they just actually look very interested and keen to like investigate us a little bit as well. So whilst I'm observing them, they're also observing me. But sometimes they like get a little bit tired of us and they start like trying to poo or to pee, or they throw like sticks at us, and then they let us know, oh, we don't want your presence any longer. But usually that's only like after a couple of hours of following them, and I think that's also fine. So then I just decide to okay, now I need to respect their privacy as well. Yeah, hopefully they like me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. We have another question from YouTube, and they're asking if you could tell us a bit about how these monkeys communicate. Do they have like any interesting ways of communicating?
Yeah, they have a lot of different ways of vocalizing, actually, and vocalizing is just like making sounds. So they have long calls, which are very loud, and they can travel up to like 2 or 3 kilometers, when they are like calling to different families and just letting them know like where. And then they also have creaks, and they're so they they creak, so the others get alert like a bark, actually, like a dog, and they start when there is a predator around. That's also indicated. I saw my one where the spider were barking all morning quite close to our campsite, and I said to my volunteers, let's go and see, because in the literature it says that they bark when they see either like a big cat, a harpy eagle, or humans. So let's go and see. And actually there was a jaguar like right in front of us on the bridge, like we had to cross a bridge, and the monkeys were all around in the trees, and they were just like going nuts. And then there was a jaguar right there, and that was an awesome experience as well. But thanks to the vocalizations of the spider monkeys, I was able to see that jaguar, so I'm quite grateful with that. And then they also have like friendlier vocalizations. I can try and do one, but you guys are just gonna laugh. But anyways, it's like and they do that kind of noise. It's like more friendly, like a saying hello kind of vocalization. The other ones I'm not gonna try and even act out, but yeah, that's like a friendlier noise that you do usually make it to them when I arrive and see them, so that they know it's like me, and they sometimes do it back, and that's also very rewarding. Yeah,
that's awesome. All right, I'll take one more question from YouTube.
I can't hear you right now, just so you know.
Oh.
You're connecting.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to take one more question from YouTube. They're asking how large these monkeys can get in their 50-year lifespan.
Okay, so yeah, they get quite large, like in this body size, I imagine you mean. But yeah, they get quite large. So when they're standing on their legs, I would say they probably get up to like not our chest, but like maybe our belly button. So, and then there's a different species of spider monkeys. The one that lives in Suriname, it actually is a little bit bigger, so it gets taller, so maybe even up to our chest. So every spider monkey species is slightly different as well. The one that I study is usually like up to our belly button, I would say. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna check.
And when they're born, they're actually like naked, so they don't have fur yet. So they're just like a little black monkey, and they're like about this size. They're really small.
That's awesome. All right, I'm gonna check in with our underway grade 5 class to see if they have another question. Hi guys, do you have any other questions? Hello. Oh, I don't know what's going on with the mic today. No, unfortunately we can't hear you guys. All right, if any of the other classes have questions, you can throw it in the private chat. I have time to ask 1 or 2 more, but for now I will ask another one from YouTube because we have a lot coming in from YouTube. How did spider monkeys get their name? Like, why are they called spider monkeys?
Yeah, it's interesting because so they have the very long limbs, and when they're up in the trees, they actually extend all their limbs sometimes, like their legs as well. And because they have a prehensile tail, which I actually haven't mentioned yet, they have a prehensile tail, and that means that their tail can grab onto things. Like the inside of their tail is kind of like our hand palm. It's quite leathery. There's no fur on the inside, and it helps them like grab onto branches. So when they're all the way up in the trees in the canopy and they stretch out all their 5 limbs, people say they look like a spider. But that's just, it's, the name spider monkey is very old. Like, we didn't come up with that recently, right? So that's why, because they look like a spider up in the canopy.
Awesome. All right, we have a question from our grade 7 class. How is the group led? If these monkeys are in a group, is it a dominant male or female?
I think it takes a little bit of time for me to load your, yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Our grade 7 class was asking how the group of these monkeys is led. Is it like a dominant male or female that runs the group? And generally, how big do these groups or families get?
Okay, so no, actually it's not a dominant male or female, really. The females have the knowledge of where the feeding trees are, and they have like roots actually like saved kind of in their memory. We don't really know exactly how it works, but kind of like with pigeons, that they always can find their way home. The female spider monkeys, and especially the older ones, have those roots, and they kind of lead the group maybe to find their food. But what we also see is that one family that can exist of up to 50 individuals, they don't start with all 50 together. They usually split up for those, and that's like maybe 2 to 7 individuals. And that's usually one sex groups. So it's like males together and females together. And if you compare like those roots, you see that the males kind of go wee. They don't really have the same straight line or idea of where they're going, versus the females, again, like because they have those roots like saved somewhere, they just go from point to point in like quite straight lines. And females tend to stay on the inside of the territory where they like raise their youngsters, and then the males usually go around to protect the territory. Males are dominant in the sense of when they want to reproduce, like they are dominant physically over females, but not necessarily are the leaders of the group. Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we are running out of time and we have more questions than we could possibly answer today. So where can students go to get more information about conservation and the work that you're doing and how to potentially get involved?
Well, I mean, the organization I work currently is Jungle Keepers. We have like social media, so you can follow us on Instagram. Also, me personally, you can follow me on Instagram as well, where you can get more information. Well, I'm hoping to get my own like website up and running quite soon, but it's still a work in process. I don't mind people reaching out to me personally. I can leave you guys with my email if that helps, like as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liselot, for taking the time to talk to us today. I definitely learned a lot more about spider monkeys. We have thank yous coming in from our classes. So everyone really, really enjoyed this, and we really appreciate you taking the time to teach us something today.
No worries. My pleasure.
Awesome. I'm going to bring everyone up just to wave bye and thank you. Thanks, everyone. All right.